This is part 2 to the starts of an abstract. This is a very simple abstract on watercolor paper. I hope you watch to the end and you enjoy it. Thank you. All right, I wanted to share with you a one way to start a painting, and I'm starting with something on the simple side. It's actually going to be on watercolor paper, and the reason why is I want to show you the versatility of using watercolor paper and some of the things that you can do. For instance, I make a lot of smaller pieces of art. In my art gallery, there were many times people couldn't walk away with a large piece of art, but they wanted a piece of art from me, and they wanted something that they could give as a gift. There are a lot of people who don't have a lot of room on their walls, so doing small art or art that you can frame that is a smaller size is a really great one. You can have fun creating it, and two, you know, they're great gifts, and if you're painting to sell, they're great. So this started with the same technique I'm going to show you. Here's another piece, and I don't know how close you can see this. Let me see how close I can get with the camera, but this has actually layers of the paper. So I would paint the papers and I cut pieces out, and then I would put them, embed them into one piece of art. These are really popular. They're absolutely beautiful because there's like some dimension to them. Here's another piece which is very simple and not a lot of colors. It's a limited palette, but this is equally just as beautiful. I've done a series of these where I have 3 or 4 of these in different colors, the black, the white, and then maybe a couple other colors, where you can frame them like 3 or 4 at a time with the different colors, and they're people can buy one at a time, or you can have a series. So this is beautiful too. But how I did this was take a piece, and this is just basic watercolor paper, very simple, and I start with just splashing paint. These are actually watercolor Magic. They're non-toxic by Sargent. Great for children too. But I splash some water on here. Splash some paint. And then I splash some water. And then I can move my paint around all over the paper. Basically just play, have fun. Don't even have to think about it. If you saw my video on tools, you can either before or after go in and make some marks. On the canvas, I do a lot of this first. On paper, I think it's just fun to watch the paint just flow, and there's some drips. And then you can go in and add. You can either start just like this, or you can add. These are the golden. You can either do the fluid acrylics or the high flow acrylics, whichever. You again go in and move the paint around. Just do different things. You can do splatters. Now here you have to be careful because, like, I'm going to use David Kessler's color wheel. As you see, I have a lot of the blues and the greens, and right across from that are the oranges. So if you do too much and they blend, you can get mud. At this point, I don't care. A lot of times I don't. I like it. This is kind of fun to see different shades of the mud. Pretty to me. All colors are pretty to me. There's an example of some mud there. That's not bothering me at this point. Here's some more blue. This is the goldens, and actually here's some gold. So again, I can move the paint around. I can leave some of them. I can leave some of them to just add some color. The little thickness there, here the drips are dripping around. Turn it this way. Here's also a spritz of some alcohol. That kind of gives it a different dimension. So this will dry. And once you let this dry, I'm going to show you. I'm going to put this on the ground. I'm going to show you some of the next steps so you can see a process flow through this. This is an example of one of the pieces of watercolor paper that has dried. Let me make sure you can see that. Make sure you can see it in the frame. This is one that has dried. This is basically, you can see down here some of the alcohol spritz, some of the drips. This is basically just the paint. No other marking on it at this point. It has soaked into the watercolor paper and dried. I love that just as it is. But to take it a step further, this is where I've done a really madness of color on the back. And then I've gone in and I've taken some sticks, I've taken some of the other tools. If you looked at my other video where I had a lot of the mark making colors and crayons and tools, you'll see a lot of that in here if you look closely. But this is already, you know, there's some smudge. Now what I would do is put a fixative on that if this was my final coat. But at this point, it's not my final coat. But you can see there's some lines scraped through the paint on this one. Then you take it to the next step, and this is when, on paper it's fun, canvas too, but on paper especially, where I've added some tissue paper, I've added some other colored papers, I've added papers out of a book, I've added, on the next one you can see I added some music. These are all types of tissue paper that I've added. Then I wanted to show you this because this is how I finalize the piece of art. And this is just to give you an idea. These are two mats. Now you can get them bigger, you can get them smaller. But if you take the mat and you go through your piece of art and you just look until you find through the, kind of like a viewfinder, a spot you like, that's the piece you can cut out and frame. So you take the mat of the size you want and just go through your piece of art till you find something. There's where I've added some music. Same thing, I get these smaller ones at Michael's. They're like, I think $5 a piece for the little tiny frame, and the mat comes with it. And so you can take that through your art and find, this would make, oh, maybe, I don't know, 20 pieces of art. Look at that. That little spot there is so beautiful. But this one whole piece here, you could do a series of different sizes where you've got like a lot of the same colors. And this is an idea of when I was talking about the verbiage on here. I've taken somebody's name, if I wanted to do a gift for somebody, and I've typed up, one, you can either type up their favorite poem or song and embed that into a piece of art, or you could write them a little letter with their name in it for their birthday and embed that piece into your art, and it would have their name on it. And I've done that for gifts for people before. But I hope you found this helpful. This is, again, just one way to start your art, to start your a painting to start. Now I took it a little bit further to the end. That doesn't mean that's the end. I could take this even further if I wanted to.